Every year, millions of people pour time and money into self-development that actually leaves them more stressed and stuck. If you cram 8 habits into one morning, chase perfection with a vengeance, or punish yourself for slipping up, you're not broken. You're doing a few very common things that backfire. Stick around, and first we'll show the 3 traps that turn growth into guilt and one tiny habit change for each that actually helps. No jargon, no tough love, just simple fixes you could try tomorrow, and a little humor so you don't cry into your productivity planner. 1. A provocative introduction. Many well-meaning habits meant to improve life can actually make things worse when they're taken to extremes or used without self-awareness. People adopt morning routines, goal trackers, and positivity mantras because those tools promise progress. However, overusing them often produces stress, shame, or a sense of failure instead. Consider someone who sets 8 tiny goals a day and then treats missing one as proof they're lazy. First, push my to-do list like it's a speed run, and then beat myself up when a run glitches. That's a simple pattern, and it quietly breaks enjoyment. Over-optimization is an easy trap. When every mood, minute, and meal is measured, life becomes numbers with feelings pasted on. First log steps until walking for pleasure feels wrong. First batch tasks until spontaneity goes extinct. This isn't about tools being bad. It's about how use becomes an end in itself. A practical example. Journaling can shift from reflection to rumination when it's only used to critique past actions instead of learning from them. Similarly, sharing wins on social platforms can turn into comparing reels of success. So instead of celebrating growth, first measure myself against curated highlight reels. Subtle signs that self-development is backfiring are worth noticing. Constant guilt over small slips, dread at the sight of a planner, or turning hobbies into KPI factories are red flags. First, reward myself only when a metric looks good, and then the reward feels hollow. Another sign is losing curiosity. If the only goal is optimization, experimentation stops. People who talk about hacking life relentlessly sometimes forget play. They fixate on results and lose the messy, useful middle where learning happens. Call it a paradox. Trying to fix yourself without room for failure often freezes change. Instead of blaming, notice the moves you keep making. First, chase the next improvement like it's a limited edition sneaker drop. That observation alone can shift things because exposure, not accusation, opens the way to gentler practices. Lighten the routine, keep the humor, and watch how a tiny adjustment can turn a punishing habit back into a helpful one. 2. When growth becomes escape. Many people treat self-improvement as a detour around discomfort rather than a map toward change. It looks like acquiring tools and knowledge without using them, filling time with books, courses, and planners while the same old problems quietly persist. This pattern is practical to spot. Learning becomes endless, progress stays theoretical, and real-life challenges keep getting postponed. First, sign up for another course to avoid having a hard talk with my partner. First, read 5 productivity books to dodge finishing the project that scares me. First, try a new morning routine every month. So first, don't have to face why first feel empty in the evenings. Those are small, honest admissions that expose the behavior without blame. For example, someone can finish 20 meditation sessions but still avoid calling their estranged friend. The calm on the cushion didn't carry over into the relationship. Look for concrete signs rather than feelings. Ask yourself, what did first actually change this month? If the answer is a list of PDFs and bookmarks instead of completed tasks or repair relationships, growth may be serving as avoidance. Another clear sign is the one more thing habit, starting a program to feel productive, then starting another when the first would require messy application. A simple check, count finished projects versus signed-up courses. If finished projects are far fewer, adjust. Shift from collecting to doing with small, measurable steps. Pick one new thing and commit to applying it for 30 days, not to master it, but to test it in life. Schedule the difficult conversation you're dodging and treat it as an experiment. Write 2 sentences you will say, set a date, and report back to a friend. Trade unlimited learning for constraints, one book, one course, one coach at a time, and make completion a priority. Try keeping a short log. 3 actions you took today that moved a real problem forward. That tiny habit reveals whether growth is real or just comfortable motion. Accountability helps without shaming. Tell a trusted person what you will apply and when, then let them ask about it. Practice imperfect action. Aim to finish something to 80% instead of polishing forever. Use clear, behavior-based metrics like first called and scheduled the appointment, or first showed the draft to a colleague rather than vague improvements in mindset. And remember to laugh at the absurdity sometimes. Buying another planner won't do the dishes for you, but doing one load of laundry probably will. 3. Courses as a substitute for action. Online learning platforms offer courses on almost every skill people say they want, from getting better at meetings to learning to code. Many of those courses are well-made and full of useful tips, but taking one after another can become a way to avoid the hard work. Practice. First sign up, first watch the videos, first click complete, and then first don't actually use what first learned. That pattern feels like progress, but it usually isn't. A common example is signing up for a public speaking course and then still turning down presentations. Another is taking a marketing class after class while my actual product sits unpromoted. First collect certificates like souvenirs and feel reassured, but the real skill, doing the thing when it matters, doesn't follow automatically. Certificates document exposure, not experience, and exposure without practice often leads to overconfidence that backfires when real tasks show up. The problem shows up in small ways, too. First purchase a time management course, and then keep the same chaotic inbox. First do a language app for 2 weeks and never speak to a person in that language. These choices cause a kind of productivity theater. It looks impressive from the outside, but the outcomes don't change. Worse, each new course can add mental clutter. Another next step to postpone the actual work, so action gets shelved under more learning. Fixing this is straightforward and practical. Replace one course sign-up with a tiny experiment. If first want to improve presentations, first volunteer to speak at a 10-minute meeting and practice that exact talk 3 times. If first want to learn marketing, first spend the time on one paid Anno Domini or one outreach email batch and measure responses. Focus on project-based learning. Build one small, finished thing and iterate. First, do the work in public when possible. Post a short video, publish a draft, send my pitch, because public follow-through creates pressure that a course never does. Use specific rules to change the habit. Before enrolling, ask, what will first produce within 2 weeks, and who will see it? Limit courses to those that require a real deliverable, and make the deliverable non-negotiable. Trade an hour of watching for an hour of doing. When a course offers exercises, treat them as deadlines, not optional extras. First, set measurable outcomes. Send 5 pitches, publish 3 blog posts, record 1 mock presentation. Then repeat. Learning is lifelong, but action is the engine. Courses can be tools, not substitutes. So instead of one more module, pick one awkward, real task and do it. The results will be messier than your neatly organized course dashboard, but they'll actually move things forward. And that's the part where improvement lies. 4. Knowledge perfectionism. Perfection about information often leads to delaying decisions until everything feels settled. It shows up as reading another article before sending an email or revising a slide deck one more time because one footnote might be missing. First do this when first convince myself that one more fact will flip a shaky choice into a bulletproof one. The problem is simple. Perfect knowledge is a moving target, and chasing it keeps projects in limbo. People call it knowledge perfectionism when the need to know every detail becomes the main obstacle. First delay launching a project because first want every angle covered. For example, first collect research for a workshop, then first collect more, then first cross-check sources, and the workshop date slips. Another typical pattern is turning a short message into a novella because accuracy feels safer than brevity. It sounds responsible. It also wastes time. Behind the behavior, there are clear triggers. Fear of being wrong, Desire to impress. Belief that more facts equal better outcomes. First notice, first do those things when stakes feel personal. Practical consequences follow. Missed opportunities, drained energy, and stalled learning. A writer who keeps polishing an opening paragraph never learns which readers actually care. A developer who refuses to ship until the code is flawless loses feedback from real users. Small, concrete tactics help. First, set a rule. 1 round of edits, then send. First, use timers to force decisions. 25 minutes of focused research, then action. Another trick is defining acceptability up front. If the problem is to inform, not to certify, then a concise summary with sources is enough. Try building a tiny, testable version first and watch how real reactions teach faster than endless study. It's okay to be provisional. In fact, imperfect feedback is more useful than perfect silence. Language and sharing create momentum. First, let myself publish a draft and label it as work in progress. First, do quick checklists for the essentials and stop once they're checked. For group projects, first make a rule. Someone signs off and we iterate publicly. Humor helps too. Joking about my tendency to over-research makes it easier to admit and change. Progress beats purity. Finally, reframe learning as a loop rather than a destination. First, collect enough knowledge to take an action. Then first learn from the outcome and repeat. That way, first get smarter by doing, not by hiding behind an ever-growing to-read list. Small steps, visible results, and a willingness to be a bit messy produce far more growth than waiting for a perfect answer that never arrives. 5. Why stopping is healthier. Relentless doing raises the body's alarm bell and steals the quiet time the brain needs to make sense of new skills and ideas. Rest and pause give the mind a chance to file things away. When first stop adding new stuff, what first already practiced actually sticks. Many people notice that after a short break, they remember details better and make smarter decisions because the busy noise has faded and priorities get clearer. Stopping also cools the constant upgrade, itch that turns growth into a competition with myself. First sign up for one more course, then one more app, then a new habit tracker, and before first know it, first do less of the useful stuff. By choosing a pause, first break that loop. The result is less anxiety about being perfect and more room to act with intention instead of reaction. That shift makes relationships easier too, since first and present rather than half distracted by the next improvement plan. There are physical wins as well, not just mental ones. When first stop the non-stop hustle, first sleep better, have more steady energy, and my body actually repairs what stress wore down. It's not glamorous, but it's practical. Less fatigue, fewer afternoon slumps, and a clearer appetite for real work rather than busy work. In plain terms, a rested person executes plans more reliably than a running-on fumes version of it. Practical pauses look simple. First pick one area to stop pushing and first follow through. First put away the planning tools, stop hunting for new tips, and use the time to apply what first already do. Little experiments help. Try a short break from learning new systems and focus on doing one thing well. Humor helps here. Treat your obsession like an app that needs to be closed so the whole device runs smoother. Finally, stopping doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing recovery and clarity over constant motion. First switch from chasing reforms to practicing results. The change is subtle but powerful. Less noise, more follow-through, and a healthier sense of progress that actually feels like progress. 6. What to keep, what to throw out. Many growth practices turn sour when they ignore everyday life and basic human needs. If a routine eats your sleep, damages relationships, or makes you feel worse about yourself, it stopped being development and became stress. Copying a headline habit from a podcast without adapting it to your job, energy levels, or family life is a common example. The habit looks shiny on paper, but clashes with reality. And the result is burnout, not better performance. Keep approaches that respect context and human limits. Small, repeatable actions that align with what you actually value are winners. For example, instead of adopting an elaborate hour-long journaling ritual because someone famous swears by it, keep a short checklist that helps you start the day with clarity. Keep curiosity and willingness to adjust. This means testing ideas and changing them when they don't fit. Keep language that focuses on actions. Swap first am forgetful for first do forget names when first am distracted. And then design a tiny action, like saying the person's name out loud once, to change that specific behavior. Keep feedback loops that are gentle. Honest notes from a friend or a quick weekly review are far more useful than constant self-flagellation. Throw out pressure-based systems that promise dramatic identity shifts overnight. Relentless optimization, measuring every minute of your day, comparing every metric to strangers online, often turns attention inward in a punishing way. For instance, obsessively tracking sleep stages can make sleep worse by increasing anxiety about sleep. Toss the all-or-nothing rules that demand perfection because they create a cycle of crash and burn. Replace shame-driven motivation with curiosity-driven testing. Ask what happens when you change one small thing instead of listing all your failures. Also ditch the habit of treating the latest guru's checklist as gospel. What works for one person can harm another, and rigid adherence to outside systems can hollow out personal judgment. Decide what to keep and what to throw out by looking for simple signals. If a practice consistently leaves you more energized, more competent, or more connected to others, it's worth keeping. If it reliably makes you procrastinate, isolate, or feel anxious, it's worth discarding. Try a short trial period for a new method. Observe how it affects your mood, relationships, and productivity, and then decide. When you audit, describe problems as actions you do rather than fixed traits. Say first to avoid difficult emails, instead of first am an avoider. This wording shift opens up practical fixes, like batching emails for one focused block, without shaming yourself. Practical swaps help more than high-minded resolutions. Swap long, vague goals for tiny, specific experiments. Instead of promising to be more productive, try doing one focused work session with your phone in another room. Replace comparison rituals, scrolling through curated lives, with a quick list of what you learned from your own week. Keep kindness toward yourself. A little humor helps, too. When a plan collapses, joke that you tried to become a multifunctional superhuman and found out you're only human. Then, pick one small action to do differently tomorrow. Quick recap. Self-development makes things worse when we do chase perfection. Do compare our messy mornings to someone else's highlight reel. Do pile on too many tips at once. And do punish ourselves when progress stalls. Notice the shift in language. Instead of saying first am lazy, try first do procrastinate when tasks feel huge. That tiny change moves you from stuck identity to something you can actually change. Be kind to your curiosity. Run short experiments instead of full life renovations. Pick one small habit to test for 2 weeks, set clear limits, and plan a tiny reward that doesn't involve burnout. Rest is part of the system, not the enemy. Boredom can be a lab for new behavior, not a moral failure. No blame here. We all do clever but counterproductive things sometimes. First, do hoard productivity hacks like they're rare collectibles. If you try one little tweak today, drop what you decided in the comments. Tell us what you do, not who you are. If this helped, like and subscribe for more bite-sized experiments and real-life fixes. Next up, a simple 14-day micro-habit challenge. A step-by-step template to rescue burnout goals and honest stories from people who turned harmful routines around. See you in the next one. Let's do one small thing better together.